I'm 76 years old, and I'm about to tell you something that might upset you. Everything you think you know about success, about time, about how to live your life, it's probably wrong. And the worst part? The people who should be telling you this, your parents, your teachers, society, they're either lying to you or they don't know themselves. You see, I spent the first 56 years of my life believing the same lies you probably believe right now. I thought I had it all figured out. I had the high-powered career, the luxurious home, the respect of everyone in my industry. But at 50, something happened that should have shattered everything I thought I knew, should have. And what I finally discovered at 56, and in the 20 years since then, has completely changed how I see life, death, and everything in between. But before I tell you what happened, I need you to understand something. The reason I'm sharing this isn't to impress you or to make myself feel wise. I'm doing this because I'm running out of time, and there are things you need to hear before it's too late. Not for me. For you, if this resonates with you at all, stay with me, because what I'm about to share took me 5 decades to learn, and I don't want you to waste yours the way I wasted mine. At 50, I had what doctors call a cardiac event. That's a fancy way of saying my heart tried to kill me. I was in a boardroom, middle of a high-stakes negotiation, discussing numbers that seemed so important at the time, and then the room started spinning. Everything tilted sideways. The next thing I remember is waking up in a hospital bed with tubes coming out of my arms, machines beeping around me, and my family standing there with tears streaming down their faces. The doctor said I was lucky. I had just come face to face with my own mortality, and they called it luck. But you know what? They were right. Because lying in that hospital bed with nothing to do but think, I realized something terrifying. I had been living my entire life on autopilot. I wasn't really alive. I was just going through the motions, checking boxes, trying to meet everyone else's expectations. And here's the part that haunts me to this day. If I had died in that boardroom, if my heart had stopped permanently, what would I have left behind? A nice house, a retirement account, a collection of achievements that nobody would remember in 5 years. But here's where my story gets worse. I ignored it. I dismissed that heart attack as a fluke, told myself I'd slow down eventually, and I went right back to the grind, climbed even higher, sacrificed even more, told myself I'd earned a second chance, so I'd better make the most of it by achieving more. 6 more years. 6 years of doubling down on the same path that nearly killed me. Let me tell you the biggest lie you're probably telling yourself right now. I have time. I'll do that later. When I'm older, I'll finally live the life I want. I see people in their 20s, 30s, even 40s, and they're all saying the same thing. When I make more money, then I'll be happy. When I get that promotion, then I'll relax. When the kids are grown, then I'll travel. When I retire, then I'll finally do what I love. Let me save you 56 years of regret with one simple truth. That day never comes. You know why? Because the goalposts keep moving. You get the promotion, and suddenly you need the next one. You make more money, and suddenly you need more money. You're always chasing something just out of reach. And before you know it, you're 76 years old, wondering where your life went. I did this. I spent 30 years climbing a ladder, only to realize when I got to the top that it was leaning against the wrong wall. And after my heart attack at 50, I kept climbing. Same ladder, same wrong wall. You can't climb back down and start over. Time doesn't work that way. Here's something nobody tells you when you're young. Success is a terrible goal. And I say this as someone who achieved everything I set out to achieve. I made it to the top of my industry. I bought the house. I had the respect of my colleagues. And you know what? For about 48 hours after each achievement, I felt amazing. Then the feeling faded. I was back to baseline. Now I needed a new goal, a bigger achievement, more validation. It's a hamster wheel, and it's a trap. I had a colleague who died at 62, worked 70-hour weeks his entire life, built an empire, never took a real vacation, kept saying he'd slow down next year. Next year never came. At his funeral, his daughter stood up and said, "My father was a successful man, but I barely knew him. Is that the legacy you want? Your regrets won't be about the things you did wrong. They'll be about the things you didn't do at all." I don't lie awake at night thinking about failed business deals. Those don't matter. You know what keeps me up? The novel I never wrote, the apologies I never spoke, the relationship with my brother that I let deteriorate because I was always too busy, the time I didn't spend with my kids because I was working late. These things eat at you. The missed opportunities, the roads not taken, the love you didn't express, the risks you didn't take because you were afraid. The people you love, your parents, your siblings, your close friends, you think you have unlimited time with them. You don't. And one day, that time will run out. My father died when I was 42. We had a complicated relationship, and I was always too busy to really work on it. I kept thinking we'd have time to talk when I was less busy, when the next quarter was over, when things calmed down. We never got that chance. Heart attack, gone within hours. And you know what my biggest regret is? All the Sundays I didn't call him. All the times I was too tired to drive over for dinner. All the little moments I let slip away because I thought there would always be more. There won't always be more. But even after losing my father, even after my own heart attack at 50, I still didn't change. Not really. I went right back to the same patterns, the same excuses, the same priorities, for 6 more years. And then, at 56, something happened that I couldn't ignore, something that finally shattered everything. My best friend, the man I'd known for over 20 years, the one who'd been there through everything, collapsed during a meeting, just like I had. Same warnings, same stress, same promises to slow down next year. But he didn't get a second chance. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in my office, buried in spreadsheets, chasing another deadline that seemed critical at the time. My phone rang. It was his wife. I knew from her voice before she even said the words. He'd been in a meeting, presenting to clients. Mid-sentence, he just stopped, clutched his chest, collapsed. By the time the ambulance arrived, he was gone. Massive stroke, 56 years old. I remember hanging up the phone and just sitting there, staring at my computer screen, at the spreadsheet I'd been working on, at all these numbers that suddenly meant absolutely nothing. We'd made promises to each other, him and I. After my heart attack, we'd talked about it, about slowing down, about taking that fishing trip we'd been planning for years, about spending more time with our families. Next year, we kept saying, when things settle down, when we close this deal, when we hit our targets, next year, next year, next year. And now there was no next year for him. I went to his funeral 3 days later, stood there, watching them lower my best friend into the ground, listened to his son give a eulogy about a father who was always working, always busy, always promising to make time later. And I saw myself in that casket, not him, me. Because I'd been given a warning at 50, a second chance, and I'd wasted it. Wasted 6 years doing the exact same things that nearly killed me, making the exact same promises he'd been making. I'll slow down next year. Standing at that funeral, I realized something that shook me to my core. I had been living on borrowed time since that heart attack. And I'd borrowed it for nothing. For spreadsheets, for meetings, for achievements that would be forgotten before the ink dried on my obituary. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my father, about my friend, about that hospital bed at 50 when I'd promised myself things would be different. They weren't different. I was 56 years old, and I had wasted 56 years. But I wasn't dead yet, and that's when everything changed. I walked into my office the next Monday, and I quit. Just like that. No 2 weeks notice, no transition plan. I was done. My colleagues thought I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. But for the first time in my life, I was thinking clearly. I had no idea how much time I had left. Could be 20 years, could be 20 days. But whatever time remained, I wasn't going to waste another second of it climbing the wrong ladder. The first thing I did was call my brother. We hadn't really spoken in 3 years. Not because of any big fight. Just life, work, the usual excuses. I called him and I said, "I'm sorry for not being there, for letting work come first, for all the missed birthdays and holidays and Sunday dinners." And we talked, really talked, for the first time in years. Then I called my kids, told them I wanted to be more present, more involved, not just the guy who showed up for graduations and wrote checks. I started saying no to things that drained me, and yes to things I'd been putting off for decades. That novel I'd always wanted to write, I started writing it. That trip to Japan I'd been planning since my 30s, I booked it. The people I'd lost touch with, I reached out. And here's what I discovered in those first few months after 56. Life doesn't start after you achieve enough. Life is happening right now, and I'd been missing it. In the 20 years since that funeral, since I finally woke up, I've learned more about living than I did in the previous 56 years. I've traveled to places I used to think I didn't have time for. I've deepened my relationships with my children and grandchildren in ways I never thought possible. I've pursued hobbies that seemed frivolous when I was busy being important. I've forgiven people I held grudges against. I've apologized for things I did wrong. I've said I love you more times than I can count. And I'm happier now, at 76, with maybe 5 or 10 years left if I'm lucky, than I was at 30 when I thought I had all the time in the world. That's the irony nobody tells you. When you finally understand that time is limited, you start to actually live. You stop wasting it on things that don't matter. You stop postponing joy until some mythical future date when everything is perfect. You realize the perfect time never comes, so you create it today, right now. Here's a question I want you to ask yourself, and I want you to answer it honestly. If you died tomorrow, would you be satisfied with the life you've lived so far? Not would people be impressed by your eulogy, not did you achieve enough, just would you be satisfied? If the answer is no, then what are you waiting for? What are you doing with your time that's so important you're willing to gamble your one precious life on it? Every single day, you're getting closer to death. Nobody likes to think about this, but it's true. You don't have unlimited time. Neither do the people you love. Your parents, if they're still alive, they're getting older every day. One day, probably sooner than you think, they won't be here. Your friends, your spouse, your children, none of these relationships last forever. So what are you going to do? Keep putting off that phone call? Keep postponing that trip? Keep telling yourself you'll make time later? Or are you going to wake up today and start living like your time is limited? Because it is. If I could go back and talk to my 30-year-old self, here's what I would say. Stop trying to impress people who don't matter. Stop sacrificing your health for your career. Stop putting off joy until someday. Stop waiting for permission to live the life you want. Start calling your parents more often. Start taking the trips you dream about. Start doing the things that scare you. Start saying no to obligations that drain you. Start saying yes to experiences that fulfill you. And most importantly, start now. Not next year, not after this project, not when you have more money or more time or more whatever. Now, because I promise you, the perfect time will never come. Life will always be messy and complicated and full of reasons to wait. But if you wait, you'll wake up one day and realize you waited your entire life away. I'm 76. If I'm lucky, maybe 10 or 15 more years. Maybe 20 if I'm blessed. Probably less. And I'm okay with that. Because these last 20 years have been the richest of my life. Not because I've made more money, because I've finally started living intentionally. appreciating every day, prioritizing what matters. What matters is embarrassingly simple. Time with people you love, work that feels meaningful to you, experiencing things, not owning things, creating memories, being present. I know it sounds simple. When I was your age, I would have rolled my eyes. Sure, but I have bills to pay. And yes, you do. I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow. I'm saying don't sacrifice what matters for what doesn't. You have a choice, right now, today. Keep living the way you're living. Chasing success, putting off happiness, telling yourself you'll make time later. Or wake up. Realize time is running out faster than you think, and the life you're waiting to live needs to start now. I can't make this choice for you, but I can tell you, you don't want to be 76, looking back, wishing you'd made different choices. Don't waste 56 years figuring this out like I did. Learn from my mistakes. Live intentionally. Prioritize what matters. Stop waiting for someday. Someday is today. It always has been. If this resonates with you, share this story. Leave a comment telling me what you're going to do differently. Subscribe, because I have more truths to share and not much time left to share them. The clock is ticking. What are you going to do with your time?